been a few weeks since my last update. Part of that is intentional. I decided to back off just a little from flooding your inboxes with too much mail. You're welcome. But some of it was unintentional. I think we can agree that life is often a veritable potpourri of mixed blessings. Maybe not like that famous Clint Eastwood spaghetti western, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly might suggest. No, more maybe like The Good, the Unforeseen, and the Blessed. For over a month, Ray and I suffered with various illnesses. Oddly, we were never sick at the same time, but this went back and forth for weeks. And then on Saturday, May 14th, we celebrated our 34th wedding anniversary. Thank you very much. With a day at historic Melrose Abbey, followed by a hike down Abbey Way, which connects Melrose Abbey with another historic abbey at Dryborough. It was a gorgeous day in the borders just south of Edinburgh. We took loads of pictures, we prayed together, we laughed together, we had a light snack, and then we hiked back Abbey Way toward the bus stop where we would catch a bus to Galashields and have dinner with good friends whose wedding we'd been a part of all the way back in 1989 when we last lived in Edinburgh. Well, while waiting for the bus, Ray received a phone call from Judy, our stepmom. Judy was practically leaving for the airport on her way to the UK, where she was to join close friends for a long-awaited, oft-delayed cruise. And it was our intention to meet with her in Edinburgh at the tail end of that cruise before she returned home to Canada. Sadly, that was not to be. Her son Bryce had suffered not one, but 2 heart attacks and was currently unresponsive and in a vegetative state. For years, Bryce had been a cop in Edmonton, Alberta, and due to an unfortunate accident, he'd been a quadriplegic for almost 20 years. It seemed his body was finally giving up the struggle to adapt. So hold that thought for a moment. We boarded our bus and made our way to Galashields. And there we met with dear friends Kath and Drew and Kath's mother Judy for a delicious Italian dinner. We laughed and reminisced together before we bid them goodbye at the train station for our return journey to Edinburgh. We got on board, found our seats, and as one does, we checked our phones. On mine were a series of what appeared to be rapid-fire calls and a voicemail message, all from an unrecognized number. Now, if you're anything like us, we tend not to pay too much attention to these. And that was my initial response until I listened to the voicemail message. It was from Edinburgh Police, and the message went something like this. Good evening, Mr. Rife. Earlier today, we received reports that your place had been robbed. We have a person in custody and what appears to be 2 laptops and assorted other items. Please call us back at your earliest convenience, at which time he gave me the incident number to repeat on that call. So after struggling with terrible train Wi-Fi, I finally got through. Sure enough, we'd been robbed. Well, a rather tense hour or so later, and we found ourselves outside our flat speaking with 2 police officers. Our window had been broken and an intruder had walked away with a bunch of computer equipment, my book bag, my prayer beads, my American passport, and oddly, about 50 of my business cards. He'd cut himself quite badly getting in and had bled all over our flat. We were forced to toss all of our bedding and spent ages getting blood out of pretty much everything. It was kind of creepy. Now, this poor fellow was likely so tripped out on something that he tried to hail a cab using my computer as collateral. Obviously suspicious, the cab driver immediately called the police, as had a bus driver and a handful of concerned citizens, all complaining of some strange fellow staggering around covered in blood, carrying stuff under his arm. Well, thanks to those concerned citizens, the fellow was quickly apprehended along with all our gear. Now, I can't speak for the perpetrator, who is clearly broken and in need of much healing. But other than the scare and the bother, we came out just fine. So, takeaways. Ray and I still had the time of our lives, enjoying a glorious day together in Scotland's border country for our anniversary. She's my girl now, every bit as much as she was 35 years ago when we first met, 34 years ago when we married. When our little robber friend was caught, he was actually wearing my prayer beads. I'm not sure what that says exactly, but I like to see it as a cry for mercy. Almost as though he sought to hide himself in this symbolic act, reaching for the grace he so desperately needs. Well, Bryce has since passed on and is now tucked into the bosom of God, where he enjoys fullness of life and perfect healing and eternal joy. Jesus once said to his disciples, "I am with you always, even to the end of the age." That faithfulness is something we have experienced daily for over 34 years, more so through the events of the past month or so. We're still grateful followers of this Jesus. I pray you are too. May the peace of Christ be always with you.